Here I'm this like 11, 12-year-old boy. Hey, let's have babies, you know. Let's get high.
I'm starting to feel like I missed that. I need to leave 15 years over.
HIIT training, I'm really excited about it. I feel like I have this message to go out and tell everybody who's trying to get leaner.
Today, actor and extreme athlete Sebastian Siegel is here. You've seen him on Lost, Family Guy, and on Tyler Perry's The Family That Prays, and on the cover of all kinds of fitness magazines. And later in the show, fitness pro Max Wettstein is back to tell you about high-intensity interval training and how he saved my feet. First up, Sebastian Siegel. Great to have you here today, Sebastian.
It's great to be here.
So you look a little bit different today, a little bit less facial hair than when I saw you on Lost. We were talking about that before the show. But so this has been a good year for you for your acting. Friends of mine, when I told them you were going to be on the show, they said, yeah, I saw him on Lost.
Cool. Yeah, it's been blessed, and I feel real fortunate.
So was it fun working on Lost? Or did you?
You know, this is a great show to work on. First of all, anything that works in Hawaii is a great show to work on.
How long were you over there?
I did 2 10-day trips, and I think also it's like if you go to a restaurant and the waiter is really kind and he loves what he does, then you know the owner is probably really cool. Whereas if the waiter at the restaurant is really rude, then you know probably the owner doesn't treat them so well.
They don't like their job.
It's like that in film too, and I think that working on that set of Lost, you have all these people who feel fortunate and blessed to be there, and so that was really this environment where it was so fun to go to work with all these artists and all these actors and the people in the union and everybody, and I think that comes from the top down. I think J.J. Abrams is clearly a guy who's extremely innovative, very creative.
He's doing pretty well.
He's doing some stuff, he's working a little bit, but also I think that the way he runs his productions is he hires people to work for him who love to do what they do, and I think that really is reflective. So it was a great trip. I had a great time.
Did you watch the show at all before you were on it? Or?
I hadn't watched it before I was on it, and then when I got booked, I did about 30 to 40 hours in a week. And the first episode I watched, I was like, oh my Lord, this is just so crazy. I'm never going to get this. This is so insane. And then I watched another one that night, and then by the third one, I was like, I can't turn this off. This is amazing, And then maybe 5 days into it, I was just sold. I mean, I was just like, this show is amazing. It's brilliant. It's so creative and it's so fun.
And what was your part again? What did you do?
I play Eric as one of the others. He's sort of this, vigilant guy. These others are sort of forest dwellers, and they walk around the forest barefoot, and they, hold people up and say, look, this is our island, and don't come here.
Survivor.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Voted off the island. And Family Guy. Now you've done several of those over the past couple of years.
That's been really cool. I think the opportunity to do voiceover is fantastic. It's a lot of fun to do. I was in theater in Connecticut, and when I was 14, I started there at Kent School, and Seth MacFarlane also went there. And we did theater together. I think the first play we did together was A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Oh wow!
And so then over the years, as he sort of developed Family Guy, he'd call me every season and say, come in and do a couple kind of rugged bad guy voices or whatever.
Come in, Sebastian. Yeah, come in and do this voice.
And so it's fun. I mean, that's cool.
Well, I should say you're from England. You were born in England.
Yes. Yeah.
So I guess, do you feel an affinity for Shakespeare because of your
English background?
I don't think it's that. I mean, I've been back over there. My mother was born there, and sort of, my grandfather and all the way back from her side. And I love going back there. I love going to Stratford upon Avon and seeing the theater there. But I think that my love for theater sort of came about, I think, from this, the sense of exploring pathology as a child. Later, sort of many years later, and as I was sort of studying these different techniques and methods, and Stanislavski and Sandy Meisner, and seeing that, well, Meisner first fell in love, I think, with theater because, his younger brother died from drinking unpasteurized milk.
Oh, wow.
And his parents sort of put that blame on him, and it was something that he never really, he never really shed out of his life,
We just did a show on parenting, but that's how stuff.
And so it's interesting, sort of years later, when I was sort of re-exploring that, I think, why did I love these exercises so much? Mirroring and repetition, and it was really this sort of psychology meets spirituality. And so it was this place, basically, theater, for me from 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that I could go that was really safe, where it's okay to be just totally ridiculous and totally insane. And I had all this stuff that I wanted to get out, and you can't do that in the classroom. Right? When you
So he's in trouble.
But if you do it in theater, it's like, wow, that child is good at what he does.
Paid for doing what you get in trouble for in school.
Yeah, so I think my love for it sort of fell there. And then I appreciate language, and I love language as well. My father's a professor of Indian religions, of comparative religions, specialized in Indian religions. And so, I love language, and I love, words and sounds. And so
how old were you then when you first started?
7.
You were 7?
Yeah,
okay.
7.
I wasn't sure if it was okay.
I mean, it's very basic at this point, but really it's a place just to play. And there was this class that I think my first notion of why I love this so much, I was just like, God, that's so great, We would do this exercise where we would close our eyes and focus on something that was imaginary and follow it and stay with it. And then I think years later, my understanding of that is this sort of, cognitive control and focus, kind of consciousness precedes reality. But at that point in my life, it was just like, wow, I can imagine something and stay with it, and sort of, and then I can go after it, when I wake up. Like, this is about, determination and willing something.
Well, that has a very positive and creative side to it. I'm wondering, you talk about Meisner, how he had some kind of a tough situation. Was there anything in your background, sometimes you hear that actors that helped you, that your acting maybe
I think that, we all have, challenges as kids, and I suppose that, whether it was like my parents splitting and only seeing my father, sort of during the summers, and, my mother remarried somebody who's completely different in Texas, and living with him for a few years, and then never seeing him again after she divorced, that at those days it was confusing and tough. I didn't have an understanding of it sort of from the outside in, because it was the only existence that I knew. I feel so blessed. I mean, so blessed and so fortunate for that existence. I mean, so blessed. But I suppose that from it, not having an understanding of it, and not having a sort of tangible, emotional, consistently tangible emotional place to express and to feel safe, that naturally, when you go in this room and there's this theater there, or let's say, when I was 12, I remember going in there, and my sense of it at that point was, this is beyond the rules. It's beyond reality. Here I'm in this like 11, 12-year-old boy. Hey, let's have babies. Let's get high. You know what I mean?
I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to do that. But I can be like,
not an adult, but I can just be outrageous. That there was nothing wrong with being upset or being angry or being sad or being just ridiculously, fun and wild,
So now, did you take that out of the theater, or did you just keep it in the
I tell you, that's a great question. And you see that a lot with artists, from artists who push it way over the top, or, whether it's like Jim Morrison, here he is unknown at like 22. And then by the time he's 28, he's grown to be like, one of the most recognized musicians in the world, and he's dead, and just not knowing when to stop. It's gluttony, And you see that with a lot of musicians, particularly, in different...
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and whatever.
I think there's a propensity for pushing the envelope, and naturally that leads to mistakes, and I think that that's something I'm comfortable with. I'm the king of mistakes. I mean, I look at people who are amazing at what they do. Let's take Michael Jordan.
That's very big of you to say, by the way, because a lot of people want to deny that they've ever made mistakes.
I'm like the best. I make more mistakes than anybody I know. But I look at somebody like, let's say, Michael Jordan, and who's missed more shots in the NBA than anybody? Probably Michael Jordan. But on that route of making all those mistakes and missing all those shots, that is the requisite, for success.
Because, who's going to have 100% average for it?
So I think that it was like, for me, the idea of I like to push the limits, and so naturally I'm going to do stuff that's not going to work. I started when I was visiting my father during the summer when I was 14, going to University of Hawaii, and so I audited the first year, and then I was in University of Hawaii the second year when I was 15, and we had this exercise for our following class to find our favorite monologue, and then we're going to perform it in front of the class. So all the kids in the class are like 20, 21, 22, and I was 14 or 15 at the time. So I had read through all these sort of classic monologues and soliloquy books, and at that point I had already been through them so much, that I thought, man, I don't want to do this the streetcar named Desire, this thing that everybody's done again and again and again, and it's sort of imprinted on your mind. This is how to do it. It's like performed. I want to do something that I've never seen before. So I thought, well, I'm going to go through these movies and look for something that I really like that's really edgy. So I found this, The Witches of Eastwick, right? You know, this Jack Nicholson piece where he's throwing up cherry seeds in the church. And I thought, that's a cool, you know, monologue. I'm going to write that down. So I wrote it down, you know, and the whole thing is about, like, you know, women, you know, is it a mistake, you know, or did he do it to us on purpose, you know? And I thought, this is cool, you know, and I went in there and I did it. And of course, it was horrible, right? Because I'm this 15-year-old boy who cannot just physically speak about that history of understanding women.
Sure.
And I'm saying it to a room of, you know, young, you know, 22, 23, 24, people who have children, who are adults, who, you know, have that understanding, and to look at this boy up on stage trying to achieve that, trying to tackle that, it just didn't fit. It was bad casting of myself by my part. Big mistake. You know?
On that note, we'll take a break, but we'll be right back with Sebastian Siegel. And we are back with Sebastian Siegel. Okay, so your big mistake at age 15.
No, one of many big mistakes at that point. Yeah. Definitely.
Well, it's interesting though, because sometimes you look at somebody like Dakota Fanning who's playing a little kid who's like wise beyond her years, and you wonder whether they can really do it. I mean, you're a little more upfront about that, but it's hard if you're too young to play too mature.
You know, I think too, for me, that one of the sort of pathologies that, you know, one of these splits of a sense of identity and a place of fitting in as a kid was that I was with my father during the summer, right? And he's this brilliant, you know, guy, and he's this eccentric guy, and he's professor of Indian religions, and he spent a lot of time, you know, living in India. So, you know, his idea of the norm is very different than something that's conventional. I mean, he's just like anything goes, you know. Plus, I think it's also, if you only see your child for 30 days or 45 days out of the year, you don't want to, you know, there's no rules basically. And then,
so he gets to be the good guy.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, like, my stepfather was really a disciplined guy, you know, who I admired and respected as well for that, you know, for his discipline and his hard work. But it was a very different world, you know, in Texas. And my mom was very sort of like no stepping beyond the boundaries, you know, no sense of this, you know, there's a rule, you know, place. So it was hard to, you know, go from one wild, nutty world of kind of anything goes. And I mean, way over the top, man.
You know, and then
how over the top?
Well, you know, we'll do that on another show.
You know, and I'm talking like when I'm 13, 12, 13, 14, 15, 9, 10, 11, it's already like I was living a pretty indulgent life. I mean, I feel blessed, though, you know, to have done it at that age. That
I'm starting to feel like I missed that. I need to leave 16 years old.
You know, and then in the year, you know, to be so regimented, it was like a sort of something that didn't work in my psyche. And I think that, again, that the theater sort of acting or, you know, whatever, what have you, gave me this comfortable place by which to say, okay, this is cool to kind of explore and have fun.
Well, I did want to mention Tyler Perry, the Family That Prays, because you were a part of that, and of course he's on such a roll with his movies. What was that like doing one of Tyler Perry's movies?
It was amazing. I mean, you know, and again, this is somebody like, you know, this analogy that we're using about the restaurant and people who, the waiters who love working there, then you know the owner has got to be pretty cool. And again, it's like with J.J. Abrams stuff, you know, Tyler Perry clearly, you know, cares for the production, he cares for the you know, artistry. So everybody who is there loves working there, you know. So again, I was like working on that set. I became good friends with Alfred Woodard on there, and most of my scenes are with her. And you know, here's someone who's like I really admired and respected, and also a really generous actress. And what I mean by that is like giving you the time, you know, to do, giving you your piece, you know, giving you your scene, because it's like it's her film, you know. That film's like Kathy Bates and her, you know, and I mean, you know, it's an ensemble, but.
No, it's good to hear that because I met her at the inauguration.
Yeah.
And actually interviewed her, and she was a little bit tired that day. It had been a long day for everybody, but yeah. So I just wondered, but she seemed, you know, just.
She's so full of life, this woman. I mean, this is like, you know, we're staying in the same on the hallway in the same in the hotel, and I mean, after, you know, work, she's like, "This Sebastian, let's go down and get a martini," you know. I mean, she's like, you know, really like this amazing artist who also loves life and is like this great mother and this great, you know, wife and this great, this energy that's just like bubbling, you know. And I mean, that's great. I mean, who doesn't want to work around that?
Oh, sure.
You know.
And so, and you've gotten to know some of these people, like socially or outside of the film. It wasn't just work, or. And Tyler Perry, so he's pretty cool too, though.
He's a guy who's also amazing to work for. You know, just I think a director too who really cares for the moments. You know, and you see like in all his movies, you know, they're funny, you know, and they're you know, some of them are like over the top, but there's a moral theme that he wants to drive there, which is like, look, let's think about how we're treating each other as human beings. You know, let's like, you know, let's be cool, you know, to each other, which is you know, which is great when you see that in filmmaking.
Now, if I may say so, I think you told me you actually met the O there as well. You met Oprah at something, one of his events.
At the studio opening that he did in Atlanta, yeah. And I mean, there's a, you know, obviously an amazing woman who, you know, millions of people around the world admire, you know, who's pretty busy herself. So.
Yeah, that day job's working pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah.
And also, but you've worked with so many big name people, and so it's interesting, you know, to kind of hear what you learn as an actor, because besides, you know, the fun side of anything, it's celebrities or whatever. But
you know, I got to tell you, there's another experience like similar to that. Is that I did this Visa commercial that didn't end up airing, right? And I was cast by Bill Condon in it, right? And he won Academy Award for Gods and Monsters, and then he had just done Dreamgirls, and so Visa came out with this big budget to do this commercial that they didn't end up running because it didn't fit into the program. But we shot, you know, a few days, and we rehearsed a couple days. And here's a guy also who's really generous with his time in order to get the moments right. So this was this sort of singing commercial where this guy goes through all these rooms and sings, and then we'd sort of dance and goof off. But working with him again, it was like, here's this guy who comes to set, and you can see, you know, someone's character by the way they treat individuals, by the way they treat the person who's doing coffee or tea or the set or mopping the floor. It's like, look, you know, this is like it all works because of everybody involved, you know, and I feel this affinity to that and attraction to that.
Sure.
You know, like if you walk into a room and you see someone who's caring for something and it's only to give, that's a cool place to be, you know, and I think it's important for myself, you know, and to spread that as being cool, to say, hey, yeah, look, like it's great to make people feel good.
Yeah, no,
and that's the reward.
Well, as a director friend of mine said, you know, like the days of yelling and screaming are over, you know, on the set, or hopefully, you know, and so it's good to hear those kind of stories where people. Now, I believe, actually, there are two other people I would ask you about. I think you met Matthew McConaughey or worked with him on a project as well, right?
Yes, and I've met Matt a few times, and you know, we did Rain of Fire. Obviously, I didn't end up in this film, but it was just an incredible experience being in Ireland for. I was out there a long time, and. Here's this guy who just seems to be like in the zone, you know. He's like really like in the flow, like in the Tao. You know, it's like all just happening, you know. And
got the martini.
Yeah, totally. You know, and it's like, you know, he's great at what he does, and I think he loves people, he cares for people. You know, he likes to make it fun, and I think that's really important too. You know, to make it fun. To say, man, I'm gonna go like do this thing today. That it's like, let's make it fun, whatever it is. Whether it's like, when I was like 18 or something like this, I worked at this coffee shop in Hawaii, and I didn't want anyone to know because I thought I had the best job. I mean, I thought if anybody knows me, they may take this job. You know, I was getting $5 an hour cash, you know, and I'd spend half of it on food, you know. Like, I'd work that one from 9 a.m. to midnight, and I'd make like $70, and I'd spend 30 of it on food, and I was like, man, I'm the luckiest guy in the world, you know. But I think Matt brings that, you know, sort of to everything that he's doing. So
well, and I always think that's good to hear, because sometimes when you hear about more the downside of the rehab and certain things that people go through, but I always think, you know, isn't it supposed to be fun? So it's always good to hear when it is fun, because, you know, it's such a creative, imaginative thing. You think it should be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Now, I have to admit, you do one hell of an Arnold impression. Am I putting you on the spot when you do your Arnold?
No, it's all right.
You know, it's interesting. Like, you know, as a kid, I think, you know, seeing his films, you know, here's a guy who also represented to me drive and discipline and focus, but also making the process fun. You know, he was the guy who was like obviously having loads of fun at whatever he was doing. You know, and whether you like his politics or not, it doesn't matter. You can't help but appreciate the way that he handles the press and the way he responds to things. It's admirable.
And you've met him through, because you know Ray Shriver's brother, right?
From Best Buddies. Yeah, Best Buddies. Incredible thing, Best Buddies. Yeah. But met him, you know, sort of a number of times, and you know, but amazing, you know, sort of model for success and discipline and drive and making it fun.
And he's got the accent down, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do that one another one. Yeah, Sebastian Siegel.
Yeah. It's a pleasure.
Up next, Max Wettstein, high intensity interval training. We'll be right back. And we are back with Max Wettstein, fitness pro. Great to have you back again today, Max.
Good to be back.
For the 100th time.
Yeah.
We've got you here on the cover of Men's Health. What is this?
That is the Men's Health Ultimate Abs Guide for 2009. Men's Health has been really good to me, big year. I'm also on their 2009 calendar. And now on stands in December, the Men's Health Big Book of Exercises. So,
Big Book of Exercise, that is a big book. So I also call you my favorite foot doctor.
Yeah.
Even though you're not a doctor, but you rescued me a couple of times lately with feet issues.
Yeah, you had a little bit of plantar fasciitis. Anybody who's kind of active is susceptible to that, prone to that. I was glad to help you treat yourself and hopefully cure yourself, and I suffered that as well. So
also known as what, heel spurs, I guess is the common phrase that people use.
And
but I just had a darn pain in the heel, and it wouldn't go away, which never, I would say I have no aches and pains, and you know, sometimes if I go hiking, maybe I've had it for a day or two on an ankle or something, but it just, it wouldn't go away, and you tell me?
A lot of people when they have it, it's heel pain. It shows that the main symptom is heel pain. They think they have a deep heel bruise or maybe even a stress fracture in their heel. Really, there's this tight band that maintains your arch of fascia, the plantar fascia, and that gets stressed or partially torn or just a little adhesion in there. And after a while, it can really tug on your heel bone and build up a bone spur. And so really, you need to just relieve the pressure on the arch by having aftermarket insoles in your shoes, or maybe even orthotics.
The rubber soles.
Lots of massaging of your arch, ice after
you said it was a small hard ball, right? Like a tennis ball or something like that.
Yeah, almost any small hard ball. I mean, a wine bottle, whatever. So a lot of athletes get it, and if that doesn't work at night, you can sleep with your foot dorsiflexed, like at a 90-degree angle.
I didn't try that one.
Night boots or night splints. And somebody had to educate me about it when I first got it.
So you've had this?
I've had it, and a doctor even misdiagnosed me at first, and then a good buddy of mine who's an endurance athlete turned me on to how to treat myself, and then I kind of pursued it from there.
Well, I was glad or relieved you said it doesn't require surgery if you're my concern, and actually they say that a lot of times surgery will make it worse. So
well, a lot of times people don't want to put in the holistic treatment or the appropriate treatment, so they'll run out and ask for a cortisone shot, and that can actually make your plantar fascia more prone to rupture. And so you don't want that, complete tear.
And I will, just on the foot theme, I will mention, he also said to me, I was getting terrible, whenever I go on vacation, I just got back from Italy, I love walking, but I get terrible blisters on my feet. And it happens every time I go on vacation. And I thought, I know people who know what to do about this. I'm going to ask Max, because he helped me with the heel. And he said, it's your socks. I had these thick cotton socks on. And you said, to get non-cotton, thin socks. And by the end of the trip was about a month. At the end of the trip, I was better off than on day 2 of the trip, because I was walking 12 hours a day. And so you saved my feet in more ways.
I've definitely done my share of hiking, half marathons, even full marathons, and you want a tighter fitting, thinner sock that really adheres to your foot, because you don't want friction between your sock and the foot. Any kind of friction you want between the sock and the shoe. So
I thought cotton would be good, but
well, there's synthetic blends and then wool blends that just wick the moisture away much better than cotton. So just no to cotton when it comes to socks.
No more cotton socks.
Yeah.
But HIIT, high intensity interval training. What's this all about?
Don't you like that fancy acronym? HIIT training. I'm really excited about it. I feel like I have this message to go out and tell everybody who's trying to get leaner. For a while there, a few years back, everybody was after this alleged fat burning zone. They're like, hey man, I'm going to wear my heart rate monitor and train.
Well, even now I hear that for cardio, you've got to be in the fat burning zone.
Well, and there is such a thing as the fat burning zone. If you get your 70% of your max heart rate or lower, you're going to stay purely aerobic, low intensity, and you are going to burn more fat or use more fat for fuel. The problem is you're going to have to exercise forever to burn enough calories. And also what they're finding out now is the higher intensity you go, the more you start to build up lactic acid in your muscles. And when that lactic acid accumulates, that good burn, that burning sensation you feel in your muscles,
that's a good burn.
That directly triggers growth hormone secretion or growth hormone release. And growth hormone, everyone thinks, oh, big bodybuilder, I don't really need that. Well, it also happens to be a very restorative and a very powerful lean body mass hormone. You usually only get it secreted at night during deep sleep, but with high intensity exercise, you can accumulate the lactic acid, get that good burn, and then you're going to go ahead and get a direct.
So the burn is good. The more burn, the better.
Yeah, it's a good burn. The other thing about going high intensity is it has really high exercise value, and what I mean is you get a lot of bang for your buck in a short amount of time. So if you're time limited, like we all are, it's better to go ahead and reach into that high intensity zone and get out of breath, get into oxygen debt, get into the anaerobic zone, if you will, not to get too technical, because what happens is you get this long-lasting recovery effect where your metabolism is elevated by as much as 20%, and then it decays down to like about 8% for the next 12, 16, even 24 hours. So even though you only exercised about 15, 20 minutes, you get this follow-on recovery effect where your metabolism stays elevated as your body's recovering, and that has a fancy acronym too. It's called EPOC, or excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. If you
made that up.
I don't want to get too technical. I did not make it up, but get to know EPOC and what it stands for. Basically, it's just a long-lasting recovery period. At first, you're in oxygen debt, then you're recovering, but your metabolism stays elevated for hours afterwards.
So what exactly does this mean when you're saying high intensity? I mean, do you have to run twice as fast, or? No,
it doesn't. First of all, a lot of people, the intensity is based on your own fitness and my own fitness. So for instance, you may run up the stairs and you're in a high intensity mode. I may have to walk up the stairs based on my own heart rate, or vice versa. See, that's the thing. You need to wear a heart rate monitor to verify your intensity level, to validate it, to make sure you're training safely. It's based on your own fitness. But you want to go high intensity, and the reason why they bring in the interval portion, high intensity interval portion,
something like that.
because the high intensity levels we're talking about, people can't maintain that level of intensity for any more than like 1 to 2 to 3 or 5 minutes. So you have to recover, get your heart rate back down to say 70% of your max or less, and then you go ahead and do another working interval where you attain that extreme high intensity.
So just a few minutes, take a break.
Yeah, because you're not going to be able to maintain that very high intensity level that is the goal. Where your heart rate's getting up above 85% of its max, technically above your lactate threshold, so your lactic acid's accumulating. That burning sensation is building up.
So I guess I got to stop just getting on the treadmill and running outside and putting on my iPod and just running do. I got to vary it up a little bit. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. All that being said, some exercise is better than no exercise. Do something. If high intensity is not your thing, just going out for a walk is better than nothing. On the other hand,
low intensity.
Yeah, exactly. But on the other hand, I'm just trying to help people be more practical with their time and realize the powerful value of going high intensity. And it's not just a time thing. With low intensity exercise, you may burn a ton of calories, but you're not going to get a growth hormone hit or a growth hormone trigger. And remember, growth hormone is what's healing and restorative, and it's proven to burn subcutaneous body fat, that body fat under your skin. Growth hormone makes you leaner. So that's the goal, and you're not going to get that with low intensity.
Purely aerobic. I'll run faster. You happy now?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Max Wettstein.
Yeah.
Do I have to prompt you? Do you have a gift for me?
I do have a gift real quick, and this fights inflammation. It's an ibuprofen, 15% ibuprofen-based cream, so you don't have to take the pills if you have some kind of inflammation associated with exercise. For instance, your plantar fasciitis.
Something
rub
like
that on.
that.
It's got some other good holistic anti-inflammatory homeopathic ingredients, so check that out.
Okay.
And real quick, if you want to learn how to get amazing abs like Max, I have a DVD out. Check it out. High definition, 30 minutes, what I'm all about.
It's called Amazing Abs. Max Wettstein. Thank you very much, Max, once again. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.